What if 5 grand could turn your plain Civic into a sleeper? Or a costly headache? That's the gamble I wanted to test. I'm Morgan Lane, a safety-first car investigator with more than a decade in the shop and in recall work. You're watching Recall Roadmap with Morgan, and today I'm pulling back the curtain on a budget Civic build. We're talking before and after, but also the stuff most builds skip: safety, insurance, and resale. Here's the plan. I took a typical $5,000 parts list I kept seeing on enthusiast forums and put it into a real-world setup. We're not guessing. I checked specs, matched parts, and compared to service manuals. The 2016-2021 Honda Civic starts around a 158 horsepower stock. With basic bolt-ons, intake, exhaust, mild tune, the realistic gain is about 5 to 10%. So we're aiming for roughly 170 horses and a car that corners flatter and brakes harder. Sounds fun, right? It is. But I also want you to see the hidden catches. What this does to crash safety, how your insurer sees it, and what happens when you try to sell. Quick warm-up before we wrench tap, like if you love honest builds. And tell me this, if you had $5,000 to mod your car, what's the first upgrade you'd pick? Tires? Exhaust? Something wild? Let's lay out the parts, then measure the change. What can 5 grand really buy for a Civic? Let's go shopping. I kept this build simple and realistic, based on what I saw across budget forums. We spent about $1,000 on a decent wheel and tire combo. Grip first, because that's your only contact with the road. Then $500 on reputable coilovers to lower the car and control body roll. For power and sound, about $800 on a high-flow intake and a safe, mild tuner map. A $500 catback exhaust for a deeper note. Stopping power? $400 on quality brake pads, plus steel-braided lines. The last $700 went to a modest body kit and small spoiler, mostly for looks. That's our 5Ki. On paper, a stock Civic has around 158 horsepower. With these bolt-ons, the dyno bump is roughly 5 to 10%. Call it around 170 horsepower on a good day. The seat of the pants change? Sharper turn-in, less roll, and a more eager mid-range. It feels more alert without turning the car into something it's not. One more breadcrumb before we talk safety. Insurers often see power mods as risk. In fact, when you increase engine size or power, premiums go up 70 to 80% of the time. We'll hit that later. For now, the question is simple. Do these mods translate into real-world speed? Okay, it's lighter and louder. But did it actually get faster? I took the Civic to a closed course and ran back-to-back tests. Stock, we clocked roughly 6.9 seconds from 0 to 60. After the intake, tune, and exhaust, plus the suspension and tire setup, we saw about 6.6. That's a few tenths. Not a rocket, but it's a clean, repeatable gain that matches the Ubrick 10% horsepower bump we measured on the dyno, where I really felt the money was in the corners. The tires bite sooner, the coilovers keep the car flat, and the steering feels more confident from turn-in to exit. Through a short slalom, I could carry a touch more speed with less drama. Braking improved too. Firmer pedal, better bite, less fade, lap to lap. It feels like a well-sorted Civic, not a Type R clone. In other words, the car respects physics, but now it dances a little. Here's the reality check. Beyond these basics, you hit diminishing returns fast. Big power, turbo kits, superchargers, costs far more than this budget and adds risk. For 5 grand, the gains are real but modest, which leads to the bigger question running through my safety-first brain. With more speed and new parts, does the car still protect you the way Honda intended? Let's test that idea next. Does a modded Civic still protect you like stock if things go wrong? I dug into crash data because feelings aren't facts. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety looked at a small Honda fitted with aftermarket parts in a 40 mph frontal overlap test, and the modified car performed on par with the control vehicle. Structure and restraint still rated good. That tells me this: quality replacement parts, designed to match OEM specs, can maintain crashworthiness. But there's a flip side. Not every part is created equal. Safety advisors warn that cheap cosmetic body kits and bumper covers aren't engineered to safety standards. One insurance guide even calls out that these can compromise the safety of the car, sometimes crumbling under tiny impacts. Structural parts must match the factory's design. Cosmetic add-ons don't carry that burden, and that's where people get burned. Our build stayed away from core crash structures. We changed wheels, tires, coilovers, pads, lines, intake, and a catback. Those don't rewrite the crash cage. The body kit we used is conservative, but even then, I'm careful with fitment and material quality. Bottom line from the safety desk: buy proven parts and never hack into crush zones. So if crash safety can stay intact with smart choices, the next test is survival over time. Will this setup hold up day to day? All right, safe in a crash if you choose well, but can it last? Hondas are famous for going 200,000 miles stock. Mild bolt-ons usually don't kill that reputation. Still, every mod tweaks the margins. A tune that adds even a small bump in power also adds heat and stress. Over time, that can shorten the service intervals. Think more frequent oil changes, fresh plugs sooner, and a sharper ear for knock or misfires. Suspension is similar. Stock shocks often run 5 to 10 years. A budget coilover might only give you 1 to 2 hard track seasons before the seals start weeping. Lowering also changes angles for axles and tie rods, which can mean extra wear. And don't forget tires. Grippier rubber usually wears faster, especially if alignment isn't perfect. From what I've seen in shops and on mechanic forums, the Civic will live a long life if you keep mods modest and maintenance tight. Push big power, forced induction, aggressive fueling, and many owners end up rebuilding well before 200K. Warranties can get tricky too. Heavy engine mods often void coverage. So yes, this build can be reliable, but it asks more of you. More checks, more care, and a bit more budget. Speaking of budgets, here's the real stress test. What does your insurance company say about all this? How does our insurer feel about this build? In most places, the answer hinges on one rule: declare your mods. Some insurers say it plainly. If you don't tell them, your claim may be refused and your insurance will be void. That's not scare talk. It's policy language. When you increase engine size or power, brokers report that premiums rise about 70–80% of the time. Even a simple intake and exhaust can trigger a note on your file. Illegal changes are worse. A too loud exhaust, chopped emissions gear, or blackout tints beyond the law can earn on-the-spot fines and kill coverage. One advisor puts it bluntly: illegal additions invalidate your insurance policy. The safer play is to call your insurer before big mods. And yes, there are specialist modified vehicle policies. Depending on the parts, those can sometimes be cheaper than fighting with the standard plan. If you're learning something here and want more safety, first build breakdowns, consider subscribing. I post deep dives like this regularly, and I keep the advice real, tested, and calm. All right, speed and safety have a money shadow. Next question in the ownership spiral when it's time to sell: do these mods help your wallet or do they scare buyers away? Let's talk resale. Will $5,000 in mods come back when you sell? Most of the time, no. Dealers and used car buyers tend to prefer stock cars because they're predictable. Mods narrow the buyer pool. That loud exhaust and body kit might excite another enthusiast, but parents and commuters will scroll right past. In many cases, a modded Civic sells for the same or less than a clean stock Civic. I checked resale guides and listings. You don't see a line that says plus $2,000 for coilovers and intake. In fact, pricing tools like KBB don't add value for performance mods at all. What do buyers pay for? Documentation, fresh tires, good brakes, timing belt or chain service, clean title. That's where perceived value lives. Our car looks sharper and feels quicker, and that's awesome for the owner experience. but expecting to recoup the full 5 is a stretch. If you do find a fellow gearhead, great, you might claw back a little. If not, count the build as a passion project, not an investment. So, if resale is iffy and insurance climbs, which parts were truly smart, and which were trouble magnets? Let's split the list and mark the winners and the gambles. Let's sort this build into winners and gambles. Smart upgrades first. Quality tires are number one. Grip is safety and speed, all in one circle of rubber. High-quality brake pads and steel-braided lines are another win. Firmer pedal, shorter stops, better confidence. Properly engineered coilovers from a respected brand also make sense. They reduce body roll and keep the car controlled without messing with crash structures. Now the risky stuff. That cheap body kit? Advisors warn these pieces can compromise the safety of the car. They're not designed as safety parts so they can crumble on minor impacts. The big, loud catback may look cool, but if it breaks noise rules, it can lead to fines and, as one insurer puts it, illegal additions. Invalidate your insurance policy. It doesn't add much real performance either. Morgan's advice: spend on parts that raise control and safety. Rubber, brakes, suspension. Then choose any style items carefully and legally. If a bargain part looks too good to be true, it probably is. We've weighed the data and the dollars. Now it's time to call the whole project. Keep the smart bits, ditch the noisy headaches, and think about what you value most as a driver. So is this $5,000 Civic build worth it? Here's my verdict. If you love driving and want a sharper, more confident Civic, then yes, this setup works. We picked up a small but real bump in power, a better soundtrack, flatter cornering, and stronger braking. It feels more alive. But there are trade-offs. Insurance likely costs more, maintenance needs more attention, and resale probably won't pay you back. The winners on my sheet are clear: tires, brakes, and good coilovers. They add control without legal drama. The losers are the flashy, cheap, or illegal parts. Noisy exhausts that trip laws or body kits that don't meet safety expectations. If you chase big horsepower beyond this, understand the cost curve gets steep and the reliability cushion shrinks. My safety mantra stays the same. Choose proven, tested parts, keep everything legal, and disclose mods to your insurer. That's how you enjoy the fun without rolling the dice on your wallet or your well-being. If this breakdown helped, drop a like and share it with a friend who's planning a build. I read your comments, and your stories help others avoid mistakes. Ready to wrap? I've got one more thought before we go. Thanks for watching this deep dive. I'm Morgan Lane, and this has been Recall Roadmap with Morgan. I hope this gave you a calm, clear path through the hype so you can build smarter and stay safe. If you want more safety-first build guides, recall alerts, and no-nonsense advice every week, subscribe to the channel. It helps the community grow, and it keeps me digging into the data so you don't have to. Ring the bell if you like being first to new breakdowns. Next up, I'm thinking of a head-to-head. Stock Civic versus a factory Type R to see how much the factory engineering buys you over mods, so stick around for that comparison. Thank you again for your time and trust. I read the comments, and I love hearing what's worked and what hasn't for your cars. What's one mod you swear by or warn others against? Drop your story below. Thanks for watching, drive safe, and I'll see you in the next one.